Alright, back again, Luke here, and today what I thought we could do is kind of a fun video, or maybe an informative video here for you guys, and that is maybe talk about some game rooms, talk about some game collecting tips, maybe talk about some common questions that are usually asked about game rooms, like not only mine, but other people's game rooms as well, and yeah, just go over some parts like that to try and help you guys out. Now, let's see, for the first question, it's a question that I get a lot, and that is, what should I collect? A lot of people ask the question, what should I collect? And to be honest, it really depends on what you're into. Some people are really into the shooters, some people are into a lot of the RPGs, other people are into action-adventure. There's so many different kinds of genres of games out there, and for each system I think that they have a really good variety of those games on there, or they have a specific amount of those different types of games on there. For example, if you take a look at the PC Engine, or PC, PC Engine GT, the handheld version, the TurboGrafx as it's known in the States. Basically, that system is notoriously known for a lot of shooters, as well as some RPG games. So if you're going in for a bunch of shooters, you really like the shooting games, or you like the RPGs, you might want to go in and try and pick up an NEC PC Engine, or PC Engine Duo, or TurboGrafx with a CD attachment, something like that. That might be the thing to go. If you're into fighters, you like fighting games, you might want to go and try out Neo Geo, because Neo Geo has a huge selection of fighting games. A lot of, the King of Fighters, King of the Monsters, just a lot of Ninja Masters, just a lot of different fighting games on that. So that's a good system for fighters. Other games, and other systems that you might want to get into may eventually be going up in price really quickly. For a lot of the Nintendo products, those things seem to be skyrocketing at the moment. It doesn't matter where you look, they're just, the prices are going really high on that stuff. Sega Genesis is getting a little bit up there as well. It used to be easier to pick up Sega stuff, but now the Sega stuff is getting more expensive. PC Engine stuff is getting very, very expensive. It's really skyrocketing up there. There's no real safe platform, I can say, except for maybe, the Atari. If you're going into like the older stuff, if you're into the older retro stuff like Atari, then that might be a good way to get your foot in the door. You still might be able to pick up some cheaper games, and so you might be able to find a system for a reasonable price. Maybe some of the NES systems, you could pick up the system itself, and maybe some of the loose carts might be an okay way to go, but definitely those are getting more and more expensive. So, let's see, another question that gets commonly asked is, how do I get a huge collection like yours? And it's not only me that's seen these questions before. I know other guys who have seen this. I've seen some of these comments on Pete Door's stuff. I've seen it on Classic Game Room's channel. I've seen it on Tom's channel, who goes by, like, was it TB46667? I think that's how it is. But another really great guy who's got a huge collection, massive collection of games. A lot of people ask all of these questions, on these different channels. So how do I get such a massive game room like that? And to be honest, all of us who have these big game rooms, that's just a limited select few of people. There are still a lot of people out there. I know Seb has a huge selection of Half-Blind Gamer has a huge selection of CDI games. There's a lot of people. Jillpoo3 has a really good collection of NES carts. A lot of people out there, I can't mention everybody, but a lot of us who have these games didn't just get these games overnight. I mean, a lot of this collection here, actually my whole collection for me has taken me 10 years. I know that, for John, Gamester81, it's taken him at least that much time as well. So everyone who has a pretty large collection has been collecting for a very long time. And like I said, for me, I've had this collection for 10 years. It's built up. It's actually downsized a few times. It's been built back up a little bit and downsized again. But for the most part, I've stored these games. I've kept them, free from harm's way for the last 10 years. So when I bought them, they were much, much cheaper. 10 years ago, there was like nobody getting into the retro market. It would be like right now, people going out and buying, I think, PlayStation 2 stuff, or buying out some of the 360 games that are going on the best list, or the PlayStation 3 that are going on the best kind of list now that they've been out for long enough, like going around and buying up a whole ton of those right now, and then, you know, 10 years from now, people going back and going, wow, you got a ton of, you know, Xbox stuff, where'd you get all that? You know, and just realizing, oh, okay, that was bought a long time ago and just kept for a very long time. So that's the idea. There's no hidden thing. It's not like these things were bought overnight for any of us collectors. We have been collecting for a very long time. I know a lot of you collectors out there have also been collecting for a very long time, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work to try and keep these things for, you know, years upon years without having them get destroyed or, you know, trashed or things like that. So let's see, some people mention lots, like buying game lots, as far as getting a huge collection. And although it is a way to get a huge collection, it's not exactly the best way unless you know what you're getting. Now, what I mean by this is if you look online and you see a huge game lot of like just tons of different games, what I suggest you do is take a look at the games. If there's a list of the games that are on there, which most good sellers will have, they'll have a list of the games that are in there. Look to see how many games are average titles, look to see how many are sports titles, because what a lot of people will do is they'll put a ton of sports titles with like 1 or 2 really good games, and then they'll try and sell it off as a lot. And now, for the average person who's just getting into video games, or who's getting into collecting, they'll think like, wow, there's a ton of games, oh, and there's a couple that I really wanted to get. But then when you look at it, you know, if you get 100 games in a lot, and then you wind up paying, like, let's say, $150, $200 for it, but then you realize that like 85 or 90% of it's just all sports titles, you're not going to want to play a bunch of sports titles that are old, outdated sports titles unless you're really into it. If you like the older sports titles, then definitely I recommend going for it, but for most people I think they don't like to play the old sports titles. With some of the newer sports titles that come out, there's more options, there's more features, the gameplay becomes smoother, things like that. For some, there's a rare few people who really do enjoy the sports titles, so don't go for a lot unless you're sure that there's about 80% of the lot or whatever is in that lot that you really want, because if not, you're going to be stuck with a bunch of extra stuff and it's just going to take up space if it's not something you're interested in. So that's one thing I recommend. Let's see, what are the best games to buy is another good question. And once again, that just really goes back to the individual. For some people, they like to have complete in-box games. They like to have the manual, the box, the game itself in pristine condition or in really good condition. And they like to display them, you know, have them on the shelf. Some people collect for resale value, some people collect for just playability. There's a few different kinds of people that are out there. So if you're one of the people who is in the market just to play the game, you could go for basically any loose cart and just put it on your shelf, you know, and take it off and take it down and play it. I think that for most collectors it's really difficult, or it becomes difficult once the game has a box, because a lot of the people, unless it's a snap box, most people won't take it out of the box. So if it's a cardboard box, you can probably guarantee that a lot of the people who have the cardboard boxes with games with the cardboard boxes, they leave those games in the cardboard boxes and they'll find another copy of the game that they can play, so they can leave the one in the cardboard box, you know, in pristine condition. But for me, you know, I don't care if it's in a cardboard box or not. If it's a game that I want to play, I'll just pull it out and, you know, put it in and pop it in and play some of that. But to each his own. So there's different ways of collecting. Once again, it's up to you. If you're somebody who really has to have like everything complete, then I recommend, yeah, just trying to look for complete stuff. If you're somebody who looks for just collecting only, then yeah, definitely you're just going to want to try and get something that's complete and isn't missing anything. If you're someone who likes to play the games themselves, I say go for anything, you know. Look for games that have scratched labels, look for games that have marker on them. You can get those games for a lot cheaper usually than you would if you were to pay for one that's in really good condition. And if you're someone who's just interested in playing it just to play it, then it doesn't matter the condition. So just enjoy it while you can. Let's see here. Kind of taking a different route. Some people usually, when they see large game collections, they will generally use the word hoard or hoarding. But in a lot of cases, the word is just really used out of context. It's not used in the correct context. I think what a lot of people are trying to say is, in some cases, it's pretty much apparent that it's jealousy. You know, some people are just like, oh, you're hoarding, you know, why don't you give some of that stuff to me? And, you know, why do you have all that stuff? And that's not fair for everyone else. But going back to the previous statement that I had mentioned about keeping a lot of these things for a long period of time, like buying them at one point in time and then holding on to them, you know, just to have a replacement, or fixing a few items and then holding on to those, and then forgetting maybe you had those in your collection, and then maybe a few years pass and then the value starts to go up. I mean, it's the same thing that collectors do, resellers do. It's, you know, it's one of those things. If you are somebody who holds on to something for a very long time and it becomes valuable, that is the furthest thing from, you know, something bad that I can possibly imagine. It's like somebody buying a classic car and holding on to it for a very long time, and then it's finally becoming of really important value, and somebody getting upset over it. You know, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money to invest into keeping these games in pretty good condition through storage conditions. Unless you have a house that you've been living at for, you know, the same 10 years, you really have to store these things, and you have to take care of them. So, but generally what I see is a lot of people will say, like, hoarding, oh, you're hoarding stuff. But hoarding actually has a positive meaning to it. Like, if you look up the word hoarding and you take a look at it, yeah, there's different examples, like hoarding garbage or hoarding trash. You know, it says, like, what, somebody who keeps empty bottles and empty, like, food packages, wrappers, and just collects a huge ton of them, keeps them in the garbage bags, and then kind of like a pack rat, you know, just keeps all of this dirty, nasty stuff just packed away, and lives in a room that's just filled with, like, dirty, nasty, you know, like food-related products and things like that. Yeah, that's considered hoarding, and it's something that has no value. But on the other hand, hoarding also means to take something that is valuable or precious and keep it in a safe spot, or keep it out of harm's way, you know, for further use or for future use, or for, you know, something like that. So actually hoarding does have a good meaning. So it's really hard to tell what people are trying to say when they say, like, hoarding. And I've seen it on a lot of people's videos. Anybody who has more than a couple of hundred games, usually I can see it on everyone's video. I've seen it on Dan Van Dam's videos, I've seen it on Tom's videos, I've seen it on Gamester81's videos, Johnny Millennium. I've seen it all over, you know, YouTube, just people just hoarding, and it gets to the point where you're just like, you know, just look at the meaning. So when it comes down to hoarding, you know, don't feel pressured by people saying, like, oh, you're hoarding or whatever. If you have a lot of different items or something like that, and you have extras and you're willing to sell them off, that's fine. I think that there's no problem with that. But I think what some people will also find is that when you have a lot of items, even if you are willing to sell them, if you're not going to sell them at the price that the person is willing to pay for them, then they'll use the word hoard. So don't feel intimidated, and don't feel pressured by anything like that when you get into collecting as well. It happens to the best of us. So. The other thing is electricity concerns. Usually this is the funniest thing that I see on most everyone's videos is, like, especially anybody who has a lot of machines or a lot of TVs. If you take a look at CRT Cade's videos, David's videos. I've seen this on David's videos a million times, but it's just like he's got all these TVs lined up. He's got all of his arcade boards and all of his game machines. Everything's really, you know, sandwiched in his room, but he's just got this awesome display going. And when he makes a video, he has them all running, and then you'll see at the bottom, like, oh man, your power bill must be so high. Oh dude, how can you afford to, you know, live like that? And oh man, you must be rich, and oh, you know, your power consumption, you're just wasting electricity. But the thing that people have to understand is that when people make these gaming videos like this, even myself included, when I put all of the things on, it's just for that video. There is no way, although a lot of us collectors would love to have these things running, you know, 24/7, just to have kind of like this carnival or arcade game center kind of feel. We would all love to have it, but logically it's impossible, you know, for anyone. To run something like this for even one day, to have everything running, would cost you, yeah, a couple $100 easily, just to have this stuff running. So nobody, I would guarantee, probably 90% of the people on YouTube who have a huge collection or have multiple monitors and TVs, if you ever see those running at the same time, they are not constantly running those. That is just a one-time thing. So don't worry about that if you see that. One other thing to keep in mind though is too with these Japanese candy cabs, and with a lot of the arcade cabs, especially the ones around here, these run on 100 volts and they run off of about 140 watts. If you take your average microwave, it runs on 100 volts, but it runs on 1,000 watts of power, or the same thing with a hair dryer. So, for example, if I turn on my microwave, I turn on a hair dryer, and I turn on the air conditioning, it'll pop the circuit breaker like nothing. If I turn on all my cabs here, turn on all the monitors, turn the air conditioning on, I'm still safe. So there's a definite difference between power consumption and power draw on you know, something like a microwave versus something like these cabs here. So it doesn't draw as much as what a lot of people would think. So that's something else to keep in mind. If you want to get one of these for your house, you don't have to change the wiring in your house unless it's really, really old, because like I said, these things usually run at about 100 watts, or 140 watts, 100 volts, so easy enough just to plug in and give it a shot. If you had an arc welder or something like that, where you're talking about like running off of 300, 250 volts, you're definitely going to need something a little bit stronger in your house so it doesn't pop the circuit breaker, because it's basically impossible to run one of those. But one of these things, not too bad. So if you get a chance to get one of them, I totally recommend picking it up. Some other people had said, like, you know, what do I do? How do I lay out my room? There's people who have said, like, hey Luke, I really love the way your room looks, and I've seen other people's channels where people would say, like, oh, I really enjoy your room and the way you have it out, laid out, and then you'll see other people who are like, oh, it's too cramped, oh, I can't stand it, oh, I'm a neat freak, or oh, I have like an OCD and this and that. And to be fair, everybody has their own way of, you know, organizing stuff, and I think no matter which way you do it, whatever way works for you is the best. The main reason why I have all of this stuff, you know, pretty much stacked to the ceiling, I'm trying to make the best of the space, is because this is my space in here. Unfortunately, this, you know, I'd love to have a whole house, you know, like before, but this is what it's been limited down to, and this is the space that I have to work with. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed, you know, I can't take this out. I think for most people, you can't go, you know, all around your whole house. I know John, Gamester81, and, you know, Pete Dorr, those guys, in, you know, even looking at CRT Cade or looking at Tom, they all have a lot of games, but you don't see them probably in their living room or like covering their whole house. A long, long time ago, if you remember, who was it? The Last Gamer Tube, or The Last Gamer. He used to have an amazing collection, you know, that used to spread around his whole house, but for most of us nowadays, I think we're just kind of confined into like a certain area, and unfortunately in Japan there's a really big limitation on space. There isn't a lot of space that can be utilized for, you know, just basic daily living, let alone having an arcade / game shop, you know, in your house. It just doesn't happen. So when it comes down to what kind of game room you should make, I definitely would say try and make the best of what you can, and deal with whatever you can deal with. As far as, like, if you're a neat freak and you really like to have everything all neat and tidy, make a bunch of shelves along the wall, make sure you have it all spaced out, and don't go beyond that. Just, you know, make sure that you have enough space and you have everything the way you like it. And that way you'll never be disappointed. If you're somebody who doesn't mind, you know, confined corners, but having a lot of stuff accessible, like easily being able to take games from both sides, you know, having this, like, game tomb or whatever around you, that's fine too. You know, whatever way works for you, whatever way you like, I'd say go for it. That's just my opinion. Some other people will also say, going on to the next topic, is the debate between the old CRT monitors and the LCD or the plasma TVs, and you know, which one's better, which one should you have, and to be honest too, that comes down to the individual as well. If you're dealing with a lot of old games, I would definitely say you want to stick with the CRT monitor as long as you have the space for it. The CRT has a beautiful picture for it. If you have a CRT with S-video on it, or you have a CRT where you can put RGB to it, yeah, it'd be great. If you have like an RGB monitor or something like that, an RGB CRT monitor, that's fantastic. Those are beautiful. The ones that are used in like hospitals, or that are used in professional camera studios, or that were used for television studios, things like that. If you can get a hold of one of those, yeah, those are, you know, amazing. They're heavy, they're bulky, but they're wonderful. Basically the same size as an arcade monitor. But if you want to go with one of those, I'd say definitely go for it, especially if you like that really glass, beautiful, sharp image that comes out of it. It's definitely one to go for. If you're somebody who's looking for space, or somebody who's looking for, you know, I guess a little bit more flexibility when it comes to monitors, you might want to go with an LCD screen, or a PC monitor, or a plasma TV, something like that. Generally, they're lighter in weight. You can do a little bit more with them, like putting them into tate mode or putting them into vertical mode is much easier than, you know, obviously rotating a very huge and heavy CRT monitor. But it's one of those things where if you decide to go that route, then you have to worry about the heat issues too, because they put out a lot of heat. Sometimes, in some cases, depending on the brand that you get, they generally, I don't think, last as long as a CRT monitor. You can get a CRT monitor that's 20 years old and it'll still fire up. You know, put a few new caps in it, it'll be good for a long time. Some of these newer monitors here, generally, we're in a society right now where it's a consumer society, so these things are not made to last past a couple of years. You know, if you get them to last a couple of years without overheating, or half the screen cutting out, or it's bleeding colors, or things like that, then you're actually done pretty good. But I think in general, the reason why they're so cheap is because they try to get you to buy the latest one. You know, they can't have something like in the past where it's a refrigerator that'll last you for like 35 years. That's not going to make any sales. So depending on what you enjoy, go for it. Don't let anybody else kind of control that as well. Like I said, to each his own. For some people who are very what is the word, like pro CRT, like myself, you know, we are diehard people who will say that the most beautiful image you can get from a monitor is like straight RGB off of a glass tube. It just looks amazing. For people who are new-gen gamers who like to have HDMI and stuff like that, they'll say, you know, HDMI is the way to go. And if you have HDMI, there's no turning back, you know, there's no going back to anything else. So it depends on what kind of gamer you are, what kind of, you know, what kind of games you're going to be playing, if it's old games, if it's new games, if it's going to be played on a big TV in a living room, or if it's going to be played in a small TV in a small little cove, things like that. Whatever works for you, just go for it. I think the key point is, like, don't let anyone control what you ultimately do with your game room, or what you finally do in the end, or decide to do in the end, because for each person there's something different. If there wasn't, then you'd wind up having a bunch of game rooms, a bunch of game systems. Everyone would all be the same, and it wouldn't be interesting at all. You know, with everybody's individual preferences, or their ways of putting things together, you can find a lot of interesting stuff just by looking at different channels, and sometimes you can even get some great ideas from it as well. But yeah, I just figured I'd share some of these ideas with you guys here. I really appreciate those who enjoy these videos. You know, I'm not trying to push anything too hard here. Just hopefully giving a little bit of advice. There were a few people who were mentioning that like the game room itself may be a fire hazard, and some concerns or worries about it. But that's another thing too. When you do make a game room, just make sure that you don't cover any outlets. You don't have a huge bunch of power strips laying on carpet that are, you know, some really shag carpet that has a lot of dust or possible buildup behind a TV that's in a wooden house, you know, has really old wallpaper, things like that. That might be kind of common sense, but a lot of people were worried and said, oh, this is a fire hazard. But to be honest, for this room here, this is just a, you know, it's just a game room. For the most part, it's just a storage room. I have all of my stuff here on surge protectors, and I have them all on power strips, so I can turn the power on and off at will. And usually there's only no more than 1 or 2 systems running at one time. And, you know, as soon as the games are over, I just turn everything off. So it makes it really, really easy. There's no electricity running through it, and yeah, no cables are on the floor, so that's another thing to keep in mind when you decide to make your game room, is try and keep it as reasonable as possible. And the more games you get, the more the more things I guess people will talk about. But nonetheless, hopefully that's helped you guys out a little bit, and figured I'd share this with you. And yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching. And just to show you guys, here's one of my power strips here. I have it on a power strip right there, and that's the way most of my stuff is, just on a power strip to keep it from, you know, catching fire or whatever. Here's my other power strip here, which I can turn on and off at will. So, yeah, really good to keep that stuff off the floor. All right.